Okay, so another episode of talking about systems for the Flip It Big group. Wanted to go over a couple of things, kind of start from the beginning on this thing, and work my way backwards on it a little bit, and just cover a couple basic things before I log off this thing. Just want to throw another episode out there for y'all. First thing we'll talk about was calls, receiving calls, taking calls. I think it's real important, of course, to take them live in person if you can. There are some instances where you may not be able to take them live. If you're still full-time employed, you may have to have some kind of calling service or what have you. There's a bunch of those out there. We like to use 1-800 numbers. Makes it easier for the people calling in. You may get people, if you're advertising to non-owner occupiers that live in a different state, different area, what have you. That's one big thing. So we like to have 1-800 numbers. Also, there's quite a few internet service provider VoIP type phone systems that you can get where you can get 1-800 numbers relatively for nothing. Right now, we're using onebox.com. You get 4 lines, I think, for $49 or something like that. It forwards a voicemail wave in iTunes form to your email. So pretty easy to use. You can get vanity numbers if you like. There's a bunch of different options there. But one of the biggest things is not really on the technological side, but on the actual person side, and that's you being ready to take the call, having some semblance of questions already down that you understand and you know that you're going to ask on almost every call. Some stuff that you want to know. When the house was built, how long they've owned the house. The how long they own the house question establishes a lot of equity things and their potential position in the home. Although they could have refinanced the house relatively recently, there's a good chance that if they've owned the house for 5-6 years or longer, in most markets, that could be a potential buy. So there's enough equity there to kind of deal, I guess you could say. So that's one thing you got to look at. The other thing is, what's their situation while they're trying to sell? We do very little screening. I know a lot of people in a lot of markets like to screen pretty heavily and find out, how much equity do you have, yada, yada, yada. We don't do a lot of that. If I get a phone call, we're taking down the information because it's what we need to know, but we're not going to not go see a house because of that information. We want to go see it as quick as possible, as soon as we can possibly set that appointment. So that's kind of our MO, I guess you could say. But I take most of the phone calls myself live. I like to keep some version of a call log near me where I can ask some of the important questions. How'd you hear about us? What part of my advertising is working the best? If you got a letter from me, I want to know. I want to know when you got it, what name was on it, because I can track those things by the name or by the phone number, so on and so forth. But so those are some of the important things. Of course, beds and baths, square footage, whether or not they're behind on the mortgage, all those kind of things. But most of that is leading you to the pain. You got to figure out what the problem is in order to be able to fix it. So that's the main thing. And then, of course, like I said, preparation is probably one of my biggest pet peeves. I get a lot of my students that go through some of my mentor classes or what have you that they go look at a house on Monday. On Wednesday, they call me with some questions regarding the house. Thursday, they're wrapping up all their figures and this, that, and other. And Friday, they're going to go out there and make the offer. I feel very, very strongly that if you're going to go out to a house, if you're going to get a call, 2 things. First of all, if somebody thinks enough about your advertising to call you, you should think enough about them to go and see the house. There could possibly be a way that you can purchase the house. I've heard the no equity story 100 million times. However, I can name 2 or 3 distinct opportunities in the past year that we've had where we bought a house and someone brought a check to the table. So far, my record is about $21,000 is what a seller brought to the table in order for me to buy their house. I've had a 21, I've had a 17, and an 11 just in the past year and a half. So don't count them out just because there's no equity. Go, you do your job, you determine the value, you make an offer, and you let them worry about the rest of it and whether or not they can take that offer or not. Yes, if they're upside down, you're going to get a lot of laughing in your face and no, I can't take that off and get the heck out of my house. But that's life. It's almost sales, so you're going to get some no's. But point being, be prepared. If you're going to a house, pull the comps before you go there. Don't pull the comps afterwards. If you're going to an area, already have your comps, drive some comps, figure out what everything's selling for in that area, figure out what the house is going to be worth, what kind of square foot are you talking about, what kind of value per square foot is the ballpark that you're looking at. At least get yourself within $5 a foot or something to that effect. We use a comp service called SiteX Data Services. You can get them on the web, www.sitex.com. They offer a free trial for your area. Different comp services are going to work better for different areas. So if one works in your area, use it, but use what's going to pull the most records. MLS is good, nothing against MLS. However, MLS accounts for, in most markets, roughly half of all the sales that actually go on, and probably less than half of the sales that go on in the type of markets and type of neighborhoods that we buy in. We normally buy in areas that are just south of the median price home, so 60 to 100% of the median price. That's not the most realtor-friendly sector of the market. It's normally a little cheaper, so less of them work it. Nothing against that, but we like to get our information from other sources that have a broader range of information. So we use SiteX and or RealQuest. Those two are probably the best. So you get your comp information, you pull that comp information. Now this is just raw numbers, so now you're looking at the size of the house, the square footage versus square footage, the price per square foot versus price per square foot. So you're comparing what you think on paper is apples to apples, but when you get out there, you got to actually look at the house and compare apples to apples, because you may be looking at a house that the subject property is brick and the comp property is not. It's wood frame, or the subject property has a enclosed garage and the comp property does not. So you want to make sure that you're really comparing apples to apples. And there are a lot of areas of the country, and of probably everyone's cities, where even one neighborhood to the next is drastically different. So I may be within 100 yards, maybe even a quarter of a mile from the subject, and it'd be a vast difference in the price of the comp. So that's another important factor to note. So be prepared when you're going out there, and have all your stuff ready so that when you go out there, if nothing else, you can get in the ballpark. My preference would be that when you walk out of that door from that homeowner's house that's in trouble, that's in pain, that wants to get rid of their house because they're having a problem, you can solve that problem by saying, this is how much I'll give you, Mr. Seller, sign here, as opposed to, let me run some numbers, I'll get back to you, I'll talk to you later. Because you don't know who's going to be there in the meantime, so on and so forth. If you built the rapport and took the time, and you get to that point, then you need to be making an offer so that you can drop the hammer and they can say yay or nay on the spot. And on that same note, of course, you need to have contracts with you and all those kind of things too. Next time we'll talk about estimating repairs. That's probably the next thing. If you got your comps prepared, the next thing you're going to have to do is estimate some repairs on the property, try and see what it's going to take to get this thing ready to go back on the market. So that's probably the next step that we'll cover in this episode of talking about different systems. Thank you.